Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Voice Fusion. I'm Michelle Westgate, your District 38 Program Quality Director, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for today's session, Maximizing Productivity Strategies for Achieving Your Most Important Goals. Leading today's session is Arthur C. Woods, an accomplished public speaker, trainer, and certified life coach with over a decade of experience engaging in diverse audiences. Arthur specializes in delivering impactful presentations and workshops that empower individuals and organizations to excel in personal and leadership development. Arthur holds a master's degree in student and family ministry and serves on the board of directors at Camp Orchard Hill in northeastern Pennsylvania. He lives in Lancaster County with his wife of more than 24 years, Elizabeth. Today, Arthur will share strategies to help you maximize your productivity and achieve your most important goals. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Arthur C. Woods.
To contextualize this, I want you to feel free to contextualize this in any context you have. So if you want to contextualize today strictly for work, you can do that. If you want to contextualize it more broadly, and this is just for life in general, you can do that as well. So however the context makes sense for you, think about what we're talking about in that context, because the material that I'm going to present today is relevant for virtually any context that you find yourself in. So our four-step framework for maximizing productivity, the first step is this. Number one, clarify your vision. And this is kind of the 50,000-foot overarching thing to think about when we talk about maximizing productivity. The other steps are going to be more down to earth, more logistical and practical, but this is a starting point for us to be able to think about our vision, our mission, our purpose, however you want to define it, and how we can clarify that. So there's a series of 3 questions that I would encourage each of you to ask yourself as you're thinking about clarifying your own personal vision or your own work-related vision, however you want to look at that. And the first question is this: who do you want to be? So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I work with adults, I work with parents, I work with young adults, I work with teenagers. And I start every one of my coaching clients. I do one-on-one virtual coaching. So I start every one of my coaching clients with this question: who do you want to be? If you think about when we were younger, how often were we asked the question, what do you want to do when you grow up? We were always asked that question. I want to be a fireman or a nurse or a doctor or whatever it is. We're always asked, what do you want to do? And I don't remember a time in my life as a young person being asked, who do you want to be? And in many ways, that question is far more important than the previous question, the idea of who do I want to be? Because if I can figure that out, everything I do overflows from that position of becoming who I want to be. And so that's our starting point for today. As we're talking about clarifying our vision, we ask ourselves the question, who do you want to be? In fact, I'm going to give you about 60 seconds. In fact, Michelle already dropped a PDF worksheet in the chat, and maybe Michelle, you can do that again if you haven't. And within that PDF worksheet, you can print it out or just write it on a piece of paper, put it in your device, whatever. But I want you to think about 3 words that describe who you want to be. 3 individual words that describe who you want to be. Maybe you're already some of those words, or maybe those are aspirational. You feel like, well, this doesn't describe me yet, but I would like it to. Take just 60 seconds or so and write down 3 words that describe who you want to be. And then I'll be right back in about 60 seconds. All right, take about 10 more seconds. So I'm giving you a very abridged version of this question. With my one-on-one coaching clients, I actually take them through an entire activity to get them to a point where they start recognizing and identifying who they want to be. We're going to do a much shorter abridged version of this by just having you kind of cut to the chase and saying, what are 3 words that I would love to identify as, this is who I want to be. If I think about this is who I am, as I think about myself in the future, this is who I want to be. What are those 3 words for you? And then the second question we ask ourselves is beyond who do I want to be, then we do get to the question, what do you want to do? So this could be in a work context, what do you want to do in the context of work, or more broadly, what do you want to do in the context of your own life? And that first question of who we want to be is the thing that overflows into the second question. So based on who you want to be, based on those 3 words that you just identified, what do you want to do? And some of you are already doing it, and some of you might be thinking, yeah, Arthur, right now I am not doing what I want to do. I'm stuck in a life or stuck in a job or stuck in a routine that's just not serving me, that's just not helping me become who I want to be. That's important to identify because we can often feel stuck. And there are ways around that, but it's not a fun way to live when you feel like you're stuck in your job, stuck in your life, whatever the case may be. So who do you want to be? What do you want to do? If you could just kind of dream, if you could look at a bucket list, if you could really think about in terms of who you want to be, what do you want to do? What would that look like for you? And then the third question that kind of overflows out of those first 2 is, what should you be doing to get there? If this is who I want to be, and I'm not there yet, and this is what I want to do, and I'm not there yet, what should you be doing to get there? This is an opportunity for us to clarify our own personal vision, mission, purpose, by asking ourselves these 3 questions. This is a starting point. And I'm not going to give you time on this call today to think through and answer those questions for yourself. This is something where at a later time, you may just want to sit down, block out an hour of your time and say, I want to answer these 3 questions, see what I come up with, and then recognize if there's changes that I need to make. So in terms of maximizing your productivity, the first idea is, how can you clarify your vision? How can you get to a point where you're focused and you know the direction that you're interested in heading? And then overflowing out of that is number 2, is establishing your goals. And this is such a good time to be doing this particular voice fusion because 2025 is right around the corner. In fact, my wife and I go away for a planning retreat every year. We spend 2 or 3 days together and we go through all of our life domains. We plan for the next year. We actually just finished that up this week. So this is a great time for us to be thinking about goals for 2025 and the things that we want to accomplish and do over the course of the next 12 months or so. So if you've ever done any even basic research on goal setting, you have no doubt come across the idea of SMART goals. And it's something that some of you may already do, some of you've never heard of, some of you, oh yeah, this is a little bit of a review. Wherever you are on this, SMART goals is such an incredible way to start thinking through, what are the things in my life that are important that I need to accomplish, and I need to turn them into a goal. So if you're not familiar with SMART goals, here's how that kind of breaks down. The S in SMART goal stands for specific. We sometimes get in the habit of making goals that are so broad, so general, so nondescript that they're almost not goals. In fact, an example of that might be, I want to read more. Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for any of us to read more, but that's not really specific. That's a pretty broad goal because you might not know what you read last year. You don't know how much you're going to have to read this year in order to read more. What if we made that more specific? What if my goal was, over the course of the next 12 months, I want to read 25 books on personal development? All right, that might not be your goal, but let's use that as an example. Now you're getting specific. We're saying 25 books. In 2025, we're going to read 25 books. You've now gone from just saying, I want to read more, which is just casual, broad, general, and saying, no, actually, I want to read 25 books specifically on personal development over the next 12 months. And then that brings us to the M in SMART, which is measurable. If you go back to the original example of I want to read more, how do you kind of measure that? If you don't really know what you've read in the past, or you don't really know how much you should read going forward, what if you had a goal that was more measurable? Like, I want to read 25 books in 2025 on personal development. All of a sudden, you can measure that. You can know by this time next year, you can know I'm on track to read 25 books, or I'm nowhere near reading 25 books, or maybe I've already accomplished the goal already. So we think about the idea of, can we make our goals measurable? Can we make them specific? Can we make them measurable? Can we make them achievable? And this is an interesting one because sometimes we make our goals too easy, where it's just, I want to read one book next year. Well, there might be some of you in this room who say, actually, it would be an achievement if I read one book next year. But I think for most of you, probably reading one book in a year probably wouldn't be much of an achievement. But the other way we sometimes go is to the extremes where it's like, I'm going to read a book every day for the next 365 days. And it's like, well, not that that's impossible, but you're probably going to want to make that your full-time job, and you're probably not going to be paid for it. So you want to look for something that is achievable, that's not delusional, but also that is not incredibly easy, because you do want to work at this goal. You want it to stretch you a little bit without being delusional. So we do want to make those goals achievable. Relevant. This is one of those things, as you think about those first few questions under clarify your vision, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And how can I get there? Are your goals relevant to that? If one of my goals was, I want to learn more about Russian literature from 1920s. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but that is certainly not relevant to any of my vision clarifying questions in terms of who I want to be, what I want to do, and how I want to get there. So what is relevant for you as you think about, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to do, this is how I need to get there? What goals are relevant to the answers to those three questions? And then lastly, time bound. If you think about the example I gave of the book reading, I want to read 25 books on personal development in 2025. That 2025, that's the time bound. We've given ourselves a due date. So it's not just, I want to read 25 books between now and until I can no longer read. It actually, you give yourself that due date to say, all right, I want to read 25 books, and I want to read them within 12 months of 2025. And with the time-bound strategy, you also want to be careful. You don't want to make all your goals, well, I want to do all of this in 2025, and so technically the due date is December 31st, 2025. You do want to make sure that as you're creating goals that they have various due dates that make sense for the individual goal. So you might have goals that are due in the first quarter of the year or the third quarter of the year, or you might have goals that are weekly or monthly or even daily. So your goals aren't just something you achieve within the 12 months of a year, but you're actually setting due dates that make sense for the specific goal. So every year I have goals, some of which do just take me the whole year. Other goals I'm finished by the time we get out of the first quarter. And then there's those habit goals that you do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly that you can do as well. All right, so that's kind of a real quick overview on SMART goals. We could probably spend an hour just talking about SMART goals, but with that brief overview in mind, my question to you guys, or my next challenge to you guys, is list at least one SMART goal you would like to accomplish before the year is even over. So we have a little over a month till 2024 is over. What would be one SMART goal that you could accomplish in the next few weeks before December 31st that you feel like, Arthur, that would be awesome if I could accomplish that before 2024 is over? So I'm going to give you another 60 seconds or so. Have you think about that. List that somewhere on the printout if you're able to print that out on a piece of paper, on your device, wherever makes sense for you. Set a SMART goal for the remainder of 2024. And then beyond that, I'm not going to give you time today, but beyond that, start thinking about what are some SMART goals I could set for 2025. All right, go ahead and do that. Okay, just take a few more seconds. All right, so as we're thinking about maximizing productivity, our first step is to clarify our vision. Who do we want to be? What do we want to do? And how can we get there? Our second step then is overflowing out of that first step is establishing our goals for the next year. What are our goals? And specifically, what are our SMART goals? And then that brings us to our third part, and that is design your week. Now, each of us, depending on the season of life, we all have things that we have to do, priorities that have to happen. Sometimes our weeks look very similar. Sometimes they look completely different. But what we want to do is start off with kind of literally a blank week at a glance calendar in front of you. That could be a piece of paper. That could be something digitally on your device, on your laptop, however you want to look at it. But this has been a game changer for me to look at my week at a glance before it's populated with all sorts of meetings and tasks and things that I have to do. But to say, if I could just kind of craft my own perfect week, my ideal week, this is what it would look like. These are the priority tasks that I would accomplish. These are the priority events that I would attend. And you start populating those in. So maybe you have work meetings that you know every week I've got this meeting. Maybe if you have kids, you know that he or she has practice every night, and I've got to get him or her to and from practice every night. Maybe you go to church. You know, we go to church every Sunday morning, or every Saturday night, or whatever it is. We've got a Toastmasters meeting that we have to go to, or that we get to go to, I should say, and we put that in. We start plugging in all the things that we already know we've committed to and that we need to do. And then we step back and kind of look at our blanks. What kind of time do we have available? When are we going to sleep? When are we going to eat? When are we going to spend time with our family or our friends? When are we going to have me time? So let me give you an example of this in case that this seems a little too 50,000 foot for the moment. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Hopefully it sticks out a little bit. But this is my ideal week. So this is what my ideal week looks like before it starts getting populated with a bunch of other stuff. So if you're looking at that thinking like, wow, you don't have a very difficult week. No, I'm just saying this is what the perfect week would look like if I was able to attend everything I wanted to attend and accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish. But obviously, every week things get added to this that also need to be done. So you'll see, depending on how well you can see this, Monday through Friday, I've got a morning routine. I get up at 4:45 every morning, every weekday morning, I should say, and I do a morning routine. And I'm going to talk about that here in a moment. And then that's followed up by, when I get to work, a workday startup routine that I do every day of the week that I'm permitted to. Tuesday mornings, I have a network referral group that I go to. But on the other days of the week, I do my workday startup. That's when I check my email. I do some of my administrative tasks, some things that just kind of launch me into the day. And I'm not going to go through my entire ideal week, but then on Mondays, I've got an hour where I start prepping for my coaching calls. Maybe I'll need more time down later in the week, but I know at least on Monday, I'm giving a solid hour to prepping for my coaching calls. I have one-on-one clients that I meet with every week on Zoom calls, and I want to make sure that I'm serving them well. So how am I preparing for the call? Is there any administrative tasks that I need to be doing around the coaching calls that I have coming up later in the week? And then I block out time for other things as well. I do a lot with Toastmasters, as I'm sure each of you do. I'm the vice president of education for Red Rose Toastmasters in Lancaster. So I allocate at least an hour every week to work on that. So sometimes it's my own personal pathway and preparing for different speeches that I have to give, and other times it's communicating with club members and making sure they're being taken care of, and making sure I'm updating club members on the different things that are happening within our club and within District 38. And then if you can see that every day, I've got some priorities that I take care of every single week. Sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's client prospecting, whatever it is. So and then you see, I go to church on Sundays, and I have some other things as well. So this is what I consider kind of my ideal week. And my goal is to try to keep this as close to this as possible. Now, we all know, everyone in this room knows, that life doesn't always work out quite as neatly and organized as the calendar in front of you might suggest. But my goal is to keep it as close as I can. So depending on when I take meetings, depending on the tasks that I have and their priority level, that might change a little bit. But ultimately, this is what I'm trying to accomplish on a weekly basis. And because I've set it out this way, and in fact, this is on Google Calendar, this is how each week of my calendar begins until I start messing with it. Hopefully I don't mess with it too much, but that's how that begins. So you're designing your own week. So as you thought about clarifying your vision, you've set some goals. Now it's like, how can I craft my week around the things, the goals that I want to set, what I want to do, who I want to be, ultimately what is most important to you. And that's designing your own week. And then we get to, in fact, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to ask this question. If you were to design your own week, and I'm not going to give you the time on this call to do that, but if you were going to do that, what are some of the most important things you need to make sure are in your ideal week? In fact, I'm going to give you another 60 seconds to think about that, list those things out, just to start getting you thinking a little bit about what would it look like if I created an ideal week, and what are the things that I would need to put in there. So take about 60 seconds. I'll be right back. All right, so hopefully that was enough time to at least give you some things to say. This is what I need to make sure is in my ideal week. as you develop this more and you spend more time with this, you're gonna figure out, oh, there's a lot of things, a lot of priorities that I have that I'm gonna need to figure out how to put into my week. Or in some cases, we need to shift our priorities so that we do have time to do the things that we need to do. All right, so clarify your vision, set your goals, design your week, and then the fourth one is this: create your routines. Of the four, this has been, maybe with the exception of clarify your vision, create your routines has been the biggest one for me. I have two routines that I do every weekday. One's a morning routine, one's an evening routine. You can do routines however you want, whenever you want, but I have a morning routine and an evening routine that has completely changed my life, my leadership, my productivity, what I do at work. And I'm going to share some of that with you today to give you some ideas that that might help you. Hopefully they do. So I'm going to give you an example of, this is my morning routine. So I do this Monday through Friday. I kind of take the weekend off. I don't get too concerned about these kind of things on the weekend. But I get up, as I said earlier, at 4:45. I head out to Planet Fitness, the gym where I work out. I do some workout for a while, and then I drive to a park, and I actually sit in the car and I work on some spiritual and personal development stuff. I read my Bible. I've got a prayer journal that I fill out. I've got some daily affirmations that I repeat to myself, and then I typically spend a few minutes reading something in the personal productivity space. I do that for about an hour, a little less, and then I head to work. I'm at work by 8 o'clock every morning. So if you were looking at this routine, in fact, I'm gonna open this up for an answer from you guys. So feel free to unmute. As you look at this routine, what would you say is one of the most important things to me personally? Because this is my routine, look completely different than your routine. But what would you say is something that's important to me based on what you see in this morning routine? And you can just unmute and answer. You don't have to raise hands. I can't see most of you anyway.
Taking care of your spirituality.
Yeah, that's a huge one right there every single day. What else?
I just encompass that in self-care.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Very much the personal development side of that, where I'm taking care of my minds, my mental health, my emotional health. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else that sticks out?
For me, it's the waking up at 4:45 a.m. because that's the first domino.
That is the first domino. And that I'm a night owl, believe it or not, and I'm sure there are other of you who are night owls as well. Learning to get up at 4:45 was difficult. I used to have to do some things to even figure out how to get up out of, because the alarm would go off, I would hit snooze, but I was able to develop a routine where now no problem. So yeah, I like the way you worded that. The first domino falls once I get out of bed, and in many cases, that's the hardest domino to get going. Anything else sticks out? So as you think about a morning routine that might work for you, and your life is very different than mine. You might be married or single, you might be a parent, you might not have kids yet, you might be younger or older, you might have work or school, or there's a million factors that are going to play into this. You might be sitting here saying, Arthur, I don't have the flexibility to do that kind of morning routine. You don't have to by any means. Or you might have a life where you could do a 6-hour morning routine every day. But what I want to just kind of point out there is that the things that are most important to me in terms of who I want to be, what I want to do, and the goals that I'm setting, this is where a lot of that starts to happen as I prepare for the day, as I get my mind right spiritually, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, and even doing working out at Planet Fitness. So even trying to get physically fit for the remainder of the day, or for really the entire day. But then I do an evening routine as well, which is much shorter, but it actually helps to prepare me for the following morning. In fact, a lot of what I do in my evening routine, I do because I don't want to do it in the morning. So, the first one is so simple. I make my bed each evening. Now, that's a weird time to do it. People who make their bed often do it in the morning, maybe in the afternoon. I do it usually about an hour before I go to sleep. That might not make sense to you. I'm not sure it even makes sense to me, but there is something about making my bed an hour before I go to bed that works for me. In fact, there have been whole productivity books written about making your bed. We won't go into that, but for me, it works really well. I put my clothes away. I'm sure, like you, there's a lot of laundry that happens in the house that my wife and I do on a regular basis. Put those away. One of the biggest things I do in my evening routine is I lay out my clothes for tomorrow. I learned that the hard way when I was in college. So I'm 48 years old right now, but back when I was in college, I was a night owl. I had no morning routine, and I had 7:30 a.m. classes, which I hated. Nowadays I would love that, but back then, oh, I hated the idea of doing a 7:30 a.m. class. So my alarm would get off. I was in a dorm. I had a roommate in the room with me. Alarm would get off at whatever it was, 6:45 or 7 o'clock, so I could hit my 7:30 class. I would go into our closet. I had a shared closet with my roommate. He was still sleeping. I was up, and I would stand in front of my clothes, and I would just stare at them. And then what would happen, I can't tell you how many times this would happen. Around 8:30 in the morning, when my roommate woke up, he would walk into our shared closet and find me sound asleep on the floor of the closet, having completely skipped class. Horrible way to start your morning. Thankfully, I learned a lot since then. So I set out my clothes the night before so that I don't have to rely on 4:45 a.m. Arthur to do it, because he's not going to want to do it at 4:45. I do my hygiene routine. I prepare my lunch for tomorrow. I read a little bit more, and then lights out is usually right around 9:15. Again, because I get up at 4:45, I try to go to bed earlier, try to get about 7.5 hours of sleep each night. This is my evening routine. It is going to be completely different for you, but I can tell you this, having these daily routines has been an absolute game changer for me. So I'm going to throw it back over to you guys with the same question I just asked you earlier. As you look at my evening routine, what would you say is important to me based on what you see there?
I think the making the bed in the evening makes sense because it gets you mentally prepared to start shutting it down.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because it is weird to make your bed an hour before you go to sleep, but I think you're right. It is somehow it's mentally preparing me to shut down for the evening. I don't want to crawl into a bed that hasn't been made, and I don't want to make it at 4:45 in the morning, especially since my wife doesn't get up at 4:45 in the morning and doesn't want me making the bed that we share at 4:45 in the morning. Anyway, what else?
Preparation. Just looks like you probably sleep more soundly when you're prepared.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and we can, I mean, you're 100% right, Linda. We can all relate to that when things are kind of settled and we know what's going on, we have a plan, we're prepared for the next day, we sleep a lot better. We've all been up at 2 in the morning fretting over things in our life, that's for sure. Anything else?
For me, it would be the preparation for the morning, because I stress out in the morning. So if I don't have all of my things ready to go in the morning, my whole day is shot.
Get that.
Basically, you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And you're 100% right, Sue, and even Michelle, to your point, on the rare occasions where something keeps me from doing this evening routine, oh, my morning is, it's horrible. It's, to me, the evening routine is the equivalent of like some coffee drinkers. If they don't get their coffee in the morning, their day is going to be horrible. If I don't do my evening routine, it is so hard to get my day going. So you guys are right. So I'm going to give you another 60 seconds because apparently I really like giving you guys 60 seconds. And I'm going to ask you this question. What are some of the most important things you need to make sure are in your daily routines? They might be completely different than what I just showed you, But hypothetically, if you were creating a morning routine and or an evening routine, what are some of the things that you would need to make sure are in that routine to help you become who you want to be, to help you do what you want to do, to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve and do the things that are most important to you? Take about 60 seconds. Okay, so that's the 5-part the 4-part framework that we created to help you maximize productivity. There's so many other directions we could send this, but I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So in our closing few moments, I want to do a couple things. I want to kind of wrap this part up, and then I want to leave some time. We have some time for question and answers in a moment as well. So if you have a question, you're welcome to drop that in the chat, and Michelle will moderate that with me, or if you just want to hold off and ask me the question directly at the end of this, you'll be able to unmute your mic and ask the question at that time, however you want to do it. But before we do all that, I wanted to let you know about 2 things. So I told you that I'm a coach and I work one-on-one with students, with adults, parents, and the thing that comes up over and over and over and over again, regardless of the age of my clients, and I literally have a 12-year-old and I literally have a 50-year-old right now and in between. So I'm running the gamut right now, and the same thing keeps coming up, and it's confidence issues. It's issues with self-doubt. My guess is everyone in this room, including myself, has experienced self-doubt or lack of confidence in a significant way at some point in your life. Maybe that point is right now. And so over the summer, we created a digital course called Self-Doubt Detox, because we really felt like there was a need for the material to help you kind of transform those insecurities into strengths. And within the first 2 weeks, we had 75 people sign up for it. And we were like, that was very affirming. We were like, yeah, that it seems like this is resonating with people. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that today. It's a online digital course that we put out. It's, I think, 5 sessions, practical strategy. So it's not 50,000 foot up in the air, and there's a little bit of that, but practical strategies for how you can be thinking about your own self-doubt and how you can begin eliminating it, minimizing it in your own life. These are strategies that not only I have done personally, but strategies that I have coached my clients on, and I have seen them work time and time again. If that's something you're interested in, you can go to selfdoubtdetox.com and you can register there. And then the final thing I wanted to tell you about before we kind of wrap things up is I get to speak a lot. Sometimes it's virtual like this, a lot of times it's in person. And one of the things that helps me become a better speaker, and you guys actually know this because most, if not all of you, are already in Toastmasters, we really value feedback. It's one of the things I love about Toastmasters is every time I speak at my club, someone's there telling me how good of a job I did or where I need some improvement. So if you would be willing to take 30 seconds and fill out just a little evaluation of how you feel today's training went, that would help me a lot. And then kind of as a thank you for joining us today and a thank you for filling out that form, I'm going to send you 3 things. I'm going to send you the slide deck that I just showed you today, a PDF version of that so that you can see the slides that we just went through. I'm going to send you the participant guide that Michelle has been dropping in the chat. And that's not going to have blanks in it. That's going to have all the answers in it. So if you miss some blanks, or you don't have the participant guide, or you didn't want to fill it out, that's totally fine. I'm going to send that to you. And then the last thing I'm going to send you is a $10 code, $10 off the Self-Doubt Detox program. So I'll give you a code for that as well, just as kind of a thank you for letting me know how I'm doing, and feel free to be honest on those surveys. All right, so let's wrap this up, and then we'll jump to some Q&A, and then that'll end our time together. Maximizing productivity. It's important. We all have things that we want to get done, that we need to get done. And as we think about it in some of its most simplest terms, the way I like to look at it is, number one, clarify your vision. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And how can you get there? Number two, establish your goals, specifically SMART goals. Hopefully by now, each of you has a SMART goal for 2024, but think about, what are the things that I want to achieve, the goals that I want to set for 2025. Number three, design your week. What would my perfect ideal week look like? And how can I kind of stay in that lane as much as possible? And then number four, create your routines. For me, it's a daily routine and an evening routine that I cannot tell you how much that helps me on a daily basis. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, Michelle, if there's any questions in the chat, and then we can take some live questions if there are any.
Thank you, Arthur. I don't see any questions in the chat, so hopefully we have some questions from our audience. You can just raise your hand or unmute yourself and speak.
If there are no questions, I will assume that I did such an amazing job that there could never be a question about anything I said.
About that, I have a question.
All right, I'll take it.
How many times did you reiterate your schedule?
Oh, I love that question. Clarifying my vision, setting my goals, designing my week, and setting my routines have been switched over the past 5 years. I couldn't even tell you how many times. I'm glad you asked that, because I probably should even have mentioned that. This is living and breathing. As you develop into certain stages of life, as you start to become who you want to be, certain things that I was doing 5 years ago, I don't need to do now, or certain things that I thought were going to be helpful weren't helpful. So yeah, my encouragement to you is start something now. And if it doesn't work, change it. And if it does work, awesome. But if you get to a point where you no longer need to do it or think about it, then then you've won.
Excellent. Thank you, Arthur.
Yeah, thanks for asking that.
Hello.
Hey,
Got a
Linda.
question. Hi. So it sounds like you do counseling for young adults, right?
Yep.
Okay. And
Yeah.
is it it's not so much therapy as it is about meeting goals, setting up goals, moving along sort of thing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I do. So my coaching is considered life coaching, and what that typically is mindset management, productivity skills, some of which we talked about today, sometimes leadership skills, and really it's not really the mental health side of it. I let the mental health professionals stick with the diagnosis and the trauma and all that kind of thing, but rather asking the question, where are you now and where do you want to get? Who are you now and who do you want to be? And how can I help you get there?
Gotcha. I'll be looking you up. I have a lot of people in my life that could use you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Linda. I'd be happy to talk to you or anyone.
Sure.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, Michelle.
When life gets in the way, let's say you're sick and you just can't get out of bed, or there's an injury or some other life situation that pops up and your whole routine is disrupted, and it's disrupted, let's say, for a few days, how do you get yourself back into your routine? Because I know bad habits creep in and it's hard to get it all back in order again. What do you do?
Yeah, and that's a good question because we all know that's going to happen. I like that you even, I think you said, if your routines get disrupted, and it's really like when your routines get disrupted. And the thing is, regardless of how bad things got, regardless of how much of a habit you fell out of, it's like, all right, tomorrow is a new day. Monday is a new week. January is a new month, a new year. April is a new quarter. There's so many like milestones that we can say, all right, I have not been living this out the way I want to live this out, but tomorrow I can start. We can start a new habit every single day. And you know, the modern research used to say that it takes about 30 days to form a habit. More recent research is saying it's actually closer to about 3 months, somewhere between like 75 to 95 days until you really start locking in a habit. So it is tough to start setting some of these habits and these routines. And then, yeah, it gets really tough if you have a bad few days, a bad few weeks, a bad few months, and you're kind of starting over. But the encouragement is just start over. Don't worry about the past, just start over, because it doesn't matter how old any of us are, we can start over tomorrow.
Thank you, Arthur, for this class. It was wonderful. I always learn something from you.
Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Yes.
Comments?
I have to reiterate what Suzanne said. It was very informative. Michelle, I want to thank you for bringing Arthur to us for this session. I think everybody here today got something out of it. I know I did. You know, it's things you forget, and you presented it in such a way that it's relatable. And sometimes, you know, you said it takes 3 months to start a new habit. Sometimes it may take 30 different people to tell you the
Yes.
same thing, but in a different manner that it finally connects. It's like an old saying that I heard someone told me, a mentor of mine from years ago. It's when the student is ready to teach your peers. And it was an excellent session, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us today. I know I took quite a few notes, and I sincerely appreciate. You have to come back and do another session. That's what I say. You have to
Yeah.
come back and do another session for us. Don't you all agree?
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
Take it to
Yeah.
the next level.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll turn it back over to Michelle.
All right.
All right. All right, my friends. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here today, and hopefully our paths will cross again soon in the near future. And Michelle, I think, is going to close us out with a couple final announcements.
Thank you again, Arthur. This was valuable. You're so insightful, and I really appreciate you coming today and speaking with us. I want to thank everyone in attendance today. This Voice Fusion session was certainly special, and I'm so happy that I was able to also attend and be here to help. I see, Sue, you have your hand up. Before I go on with what I have to say, I'll address Sue.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Arthur. Earlier in the call today, Ann Golden reminded me that to commemorate our wonderful occasion today, I'd like to take a family photo. For all of you who are interested, please keep your smiles on and your camera on. For those of you who are not on video right now, please turn your camera on if you would like to be in the family photo. This will be used to promote other Voice Fusion events and as a memory. If you do not want to be in the family photo, you may keep your camera off. I'll give you a few moments to get set up, and I'll give you a photo prompt. There you go, Ann Golden. I see that smile. And then I'll drop the photo in the chat after. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much. Back to you, Michelle.
Great. Thank you, Sue. And I am so glad that you remembered to do that. We don't always remember to do those things, just like I didn't turn on the recording at the very beginning, Arthur. So we did catch most of the session, thankfully. If it wasn't for Farhat putting that reminder in the chat, I might have missed it. And I'm glad that we didn't, because this is going to be valuable for weeks and months to come. It will be out on our YouTube channel. I wanted to remind everybody that District 38 does have a YouTube channel, and we are putting all of our Voice Fusion sessions on the channel. So take a look at what's there. If you have missed a session, you can always catch it again. I want to I did address I have notes here for myself. We do hope to see you again at our next Voice Fusion session. Until then, just as Arthur has told us, stay productive and keep making progress towards your goals. It's never too late to get started. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks, Michelle.
you.
You.